So Trump's win is sparking outrage across the globe.
It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go.
The View is divided in their hate for Trump.
And you feel anything that comes up, and then you turn around and you say, let's look at the tapes, let's see what we did, let's see how we continue to fight for the people that we care about.
And Obama's chief strategist blames uneducated Americans for Kamala's loss.
Another part of our history, which I think African Americans and Native Americans are all too well acquainted with, a dark part, and Donald Trump speaks to that dark part.
All right, so it's been 4 weeks since the U.S. election occurred. Just under 60 days before Donald Trump actually gets sworn into office. And already so much drama has occurred to the point where both sides are so polarizing to their ideologies and beliefs that it has created a really divisive culture in America. For far too long, the mainstream media has fed the masses with news full of miscommunication and misinformation, and legacy media is actually tumbling into a spiral as they lose the monopoly on news and information, creating a vacuum where small creators such as myself and podcasters are actually growing like wildfire. It's a unique time, guys, to be alive, and I'm excited for what lays ahead. Now, on this channel, we are not only going to talk about business, finance, and trading and investments, but we're also going to discuss politics as well. Why, do you ask? Well, let's just say the Trump effect is real. Whether positive or negative, with him being reelected, based on his policies, almost every area seems to be influenced by Donald Trump, one way or another. So we are actually now going to analyze some facts. We're going to analyze the data. We're actually going to analyze his policies and measure his policies against his results, because the next 4 years is going to be filled with a lot of entertainment, emotions, banter, economic and financial opportunities. So let's talk about it. Trump's win has sparked a huge divide in opinions and has created a ripple in almost every area, from politics to business to entertainment to media, economics, finance, racism, relationships, and the list goes on. The last 4 weeks has actually shown me that Trump is truly an influential leader, and people pay attention to this guy. He commands attention when he walks to the room, and when he speaks, people listen. I believe that his presidency sparks an era where woke ideologies and strongholds are being broken. The status quo is being questioned, and common sense is finally rising up. Majority of Americans made their choice on November 5th, and they chose Donald Trump, but not everybody was happy with the results. Take a look.
Let's be honest, it was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for healthcare, for our climate, for science, for journalism, for justice, for free speech. It was a terrible night for poor people, for the middle class, for seniors who rely on Social Security, for our allies in Ukraine, for NATO, for the truth and democracy and decency. And it was a terrible night for everyone who voted against him. And guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize it yet.
All right, so clearly Jimmy Kimmel is not in favor of Donald Trump's win. I do strongly disagree that it was a bad night for women, children, for democracy, immigration, free speech, the media, veterans, poor people, and all the other people that he had listed. Now, his rhetoric actually just feeds into the fear that is already out there, the fear that the left say Donald Trump promotes, they actually also promote, which is weird. As a matter of fact, they feed into this fear, not even taking into consideration that Trump was already in office before, and none of those things they say he is ever happened. Actually, I'll even say it was actually a great night for those individuals. Finally, America has a leader that is determined to put Americans first and is willing to push back on so many of the policies and far-left liberal ideologies that is crippling the United States and indirectly affecting the world. The Biden-Harris administration has shown that the last 4 years has not gone well, and that change is actually necessary. Something different has to happen. Now, Americans remember the years that Donald Trump was in power, and they compared it to where they were now, and they suddenly realized that maybe he actually wasn't so bad after all. All the things the mainstream media is saying appears not to be true. Now, Donald Trump isn't without fault, don't get me wrong. He definitely has a hand to play in some of the divisive rhetoric over the years that has occurred, but when you actually do your own research, and I have, you realize that a lot of things are not being reported accurately. And it all came out this election. U.S. citizens remembered the years that he was in power, compared it to the Biden and Harris era, and made a decision to bypass all the propaganda, all the hate, all the anti-Trump messaging, and voted on what made sense to them, which is simply a better immigration system, stronger borders, and a better economy. Now, if you guys are finding any value in this content, please like and share and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to support the growth of this channel any further, then click on the link in the description down below. Buy us a cup of coffee or a glass of wine. Now, Jimmy Kimmel wasn't the only one. The View, which has been so anti-Trump for so many years, had quite a bit to say. And to me, the panel actually appeared divided. Take a look.
Echoing the sentiments, Joy, one of the first thing I wanted to say for anyone that needs an example of when the person you voted for does not win, you do not say the system must be broken or that it was rigged. You say it is what it is, and you show up anyway. And I want to commend all those people that voted, because you sometimes hear people say, well, it didn't matter. No, it did matter. That was still your currency. That was still your power. And people turned out. Now, if you didn't vote, you really don't have a say in the conversation, so you can go ahead and sit down. But for the rest of you,
she makes a good point here, and pretty much people have this belief if you don't vote, it doesn't matter. Hey, my candidate's not going to win, my voice doesn't matter. Now imagine if everyone thought that way, then nobody would vote. Right? Another thing too is by saying your voice don't matter, you're giving away your power. It's better to at least speak your mind and speak your right, and in a democracy you don't always win, but at least your voice is heard, and that's very, very important. But let's continue watching.
and then a lot of what I think about is what I always tell my kids when things go on. You feel what you feel. Everyone has different emotions. Some people got what they wanted. A lot of people didn't. And you feel anything that comes up, and then you turn around and you say, let's look at the tapes. Let's see what we did. Let's see how we continue to fight for the people that we care about. And you take one step in front of the other. And so here we are today, and I still feel that optimistic because I feel arm in arm with so many people who agree with me, and I'm not going to stop marching. So
I like this pep talk, Coach Haynes.
Sarah Haynes is on point, and I like her attitude. You know what I mean? It's not one of divisiveness, it's one of inclusion. And I think her mates on the panel there should take note. And that's the attitude I believe either side, whether you're on the left or on the right, you have to take, because at the end of the day, whoever wins, you're stuck with them. It doesn't make sense to fight the opposition. And of course, by doing that, it just creates this unity. Now, if there's a valid opposition and something you want to protest, that's fine. However, some people just do it for the sake of, I don't like that person, I hate that person. And I think that's just not right. But anyways, let's listen to Alyssa and let's see what she has to say.
Listen, is it the outcome I wanted? No, but we live in a democracy. I have my vote. Right. Millions of people cast their votes did. And what's important to me is this. Tens of millions of Americans, our friends, our neighbors, our family members, voted for Donald Trump. We disagree with him. I know we all do at this table, but they are good, decent people who are patriots and love this country. And I can't speak to what drove them to the conclusion of being with him, but I think it is a moment for us to listen to each other, to hear each other, express what our concerns are. I've spent the last 4 years doing that, and also listen to people who are with him, because this is a country that there is truly more that unites us than divides us. I know it doesn't feel like that for many people in this moment.
And she has common sense. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. She has common sense, but we'll talk a little bit more. Let's continue watching.
But we need to bring down the temperature, the name calling, the demonizing. Let the other side, if they want to do that, they can do it. But I think it is a moment to listen to the voters. And this, I have to say, I've always thought he could win. I thought in the final stretch she might eke it out. I didn't expect it to be this resounding, and I think there are some lessons from it. I think we forget about rural America. I think the working class feels left behind. They feel like the powerful, the elite only care about them and their power. And he spoke to them. We may not have liked his words, but they turned out for him. I mean, the map was, it was beyond Reagan what we saw last night. And I think we need to start listening more about the concerns of everyday Americans who feel like this system is failing.
Sarah and Alyssa, in my opinion, are more understanding and reasonable. And although they voted for Kamala and they dislike Trump, they also realize that maybe, just maybe, it's not going to be so bad after all. Perhaps they can look within themselves and find some common ground, commonalities, as well as some common sense to this whole situation. Because whether they like it or not, he is their president, and there's nothing really they can do about it. However, Sunny and Anna, not so much.
I'm profoundly disturbed. I think if you look at the New York Times this morning, the headline was "America makes a perilous choice." I think that
I just feel like everything she says is always doom and gloom. I feel as if she just intentionally likes to say negative things just to get a reaction and some sort of clout. I don't know, because anyways, let's continue watching.
That in 2016, we didn't know what we would get from a Trump administration, but we know now. And we know now that he will have almost unfettered power. And so I worry, not about myself, actually. I don't worry about my station in life. I worry about the working class.
Okay, so why is she worried about the working class when the working class clearly voted for Trump? And that just makes no sense. She says she doesn't worry about herself, but yet she speaks so negatively about the upcoming and incoming president. So to me, it just doesn't make sense. You can't speak for the working class when you don't really listen to the working class, because if you did, you wouldn't be voicing this opinion. But anyways, let's continue watching.
I worry about my mother, a retired teacher. I worry about our elderly and their Social Security and their Medicare. I worry about my children's future, especially my daughter, who now has less rights than I have. And I remember...
That makes no sense. What less rights than you have? Please tell me.
I remember my father telling me many, many years ago that I was the first person in his family to enjoy full civil rights. And now I have less civil rights than I had when he told me that. So again, I'm profoundly disturbed that the 14th Amendment of the Constitution did not prevent someone who participated in an insurrection from becoming president of the United States. I think that going forward, the convicted felon box on employment applications better be taken off, because if you can be the president of the United States, then you should not be prevented from employment in this country, because I remember applying for my jobs as a federal prosecutor, and there was a box for convicted felons.
Well,
and so that box better be taken off. And I think our healthcare system is now at risk. I think
no fluoride for anyone.
Yeah, economists have made clear that he's going to increase the debt by $7.75 trillion. I'm worried about mass deportation and internment camps, and I'm also worried about Elon Musk warning Americans to prepare for temporary hardship. I'm surprised at the result, but I'm not surprised. As a woman of color, I was so hopeful that a mixed...
She's gonna go there. She's gonna go there. She's going there.
Race woman married to a Jewish guy could be elected president of this country. And I think that it had nothing to do with policy. I think this was a referendum of...
Wow. Had nothing to do with policy. Yeah, that's right, because she never had any. So that's why it has nothing to do with policy. Oh my God. Let's watch.
Cultural resentment in this country.
Well, I think it, I think it has to do with a lot of things, that being one of them.
All right, so here's another one who's always so negative, and of course, nothing that comes out of her mouth is really helpful. But at the end of the day, we still want to listen to what she has to say. So let's listen up.
I'm obviously very disappointed. I'm very sad. I was at the Kamala Harris headquarters yesterday in Washington, and it was a very sad scene. The mood turned immediately, and I tell you, there's a quote I get a lot of inspiration from, and it's a quote that I read when I was reading about John F. Kennedy, and it says, Whether I am on the winning or the losing side is not the point with me. It is being on the side where my sympathies lie that matters. And that to me brought me a consolation and inspiration this morning because I have no regrets.
Yep.
I worked hard as hell to elect the first Black Asian woman president. History slipped through our fingers again. I worked hard as hell.
You know what I noticed? They talk more about the gender and the race more than the policies. So their whole thing is to elect a woman of color and a woman, which is fine. I have nothing against that. But nothing on policy, nothing on what she has done, nothing on actual results, nothing that will actually favor the American people, which to me doesn't actually make any sense. Just listen to the words that she says.
For Donald Trump not to be president. But today, unlike Donald Trump and his followers, I acknowledge that he won. I hope for the best for our country. And I make a commitment to our LGBTQ, to our immigrants, to our elderly, to our young girls, to the women, that we will not stop fighting. We can be sad today. Today we can be sad. Tomorrow we stand up and we continue.
The question is, what are you fighting against? You're fighting against the wrong thing, my friend. Literally fighting against the wrong thing. And the irony is she thinks that a lot of people side with her, but they don't, because majority of those people voted for Trump. And that's just my opinion. But let's continue watching.
We continue. We have every right as Americans, because we love this country, because this is the most exceptional country in the world, we have the right and the duty to speak up and denounce abuses of power, to be vigilant. And so I invite all Americans to do it. But we are doing what they didn't do. We are recognizing they won. Now let's see what happens when he is governing.
All right, so Sunny and Anna clearly have hatred for Donald Trump, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon. So we're going to have a lot of content to talk about, and it's good. It gives us reason to talk on this channel. And it seems like no matter what Trump does, they just won't approve the guy. Well, to me, it's not authentic, and it's just disingenuous in my opinion. After all, just wait till the guy actually does something that is incorrect or feeds into your fear. Wait till he actually does something, then voice out your concerns or protest. After all, it's a democracy. It's America. That's what you guys are about, right? So wait for the guy to do something. But to put out so much hate and misinformation and fear and all of these things that are untrue or is just hypothetical situation, it's actually not good for their viewership, and their ratings are actually taking a hit because of that. Anyways, Obama's top political advisor also shared his reaction, but it was received with so much backlash. Watch this.
I'll be really honest about this. There are rational reasons, concrete reasons for why this defeat occurred. You talked about them: inflation, immigration, discontent among non-college voters, particularly young voters who did not go to college. But as many times as I hear them, and I and you and everybody will be hearing them for the rest of our lives, it just doesn't, on some level, ever make sense to me. And that goes to why I was wrong about this election.
Okay, wait. Let me pause it for a second. So you mean to tell me the reason Donald Trump won was because uneducated Americans concerned about inflation and immigration voted for Trump, but for some reason he can't understand why? So wait, he's the educated one, but can't understand these simple, rational reasons? Oh, by the way, not all Americans who voted for Trump were uneducated. Some were actually educated, and really smart people too. That's just an insult across the board. I mean, both educated and uneducated people voted also for Kamala Harris, and hey, that's okay. Education has nothing to do with it. Just because you have an education doesn't mean you're smarter or better than somebody else. This is common sense and clearly shows how sometimes too much education can get into your head and sometimes block you from seeing common sense in your face. To me, it just appears that non-college educated voters are the smart ones, and this guy's the dumb one. Now, he also mentioned that there's rational reasons that voters voted for Trump, but in the same breath, in the same sentence, claims that he doesn't understand it. If it's so rational, why can't you understand it? To me, it just speaks on how delusional some of these critics are on the left and how far gone their thinking is. But that's not all that he said. That was troubling. Continue watching.
Here we are.
You know, and last night I was thinking, oh my gosh, is that Madison Square Garden rally, is that the soul of America now? And the reality is that there is a dark part of the American soul, and Donald Trump appeals to it. And I think we make the mistake of thinking that the soul of America, as Joe Biden talks about, as John Meacham talks about, is this unitary one thing that is light and believes in equality and freedom and all these great virtues. But it also includes another part of our history, which I think African Americans and Native Americans are all too well acquainted with, a dark part, and Donald Trump speaks to that dark part. But there is a fight for that soul. It's not a situation where we just appeal to it and the votes come our way. We have to fight for it. And I think that that's really the task ahead of us, to be honest.
So what he's saying is that Donald Trump appealed to the dark side of the soul of every American citizen that voted for him. That to me seems like a very ignorant statement to make, and just speaks actually of the divisive rhetoric they've been kind of preaching over and over for the last 8 years. But again, not all critics are BS, gotta be honest. Some are critical thinkers, some have done some introspection, and their comments are pretty reasonable. Some actually have some very good viewpoints and opinions, and they do understand that perhaps they should just come around and find some common ground with the new president, because the best way to heal and unite the country is if both sides think differently. Either way, there's no dispute that Donald Trump is the next president of the United States. Like it or not, democracy has spoken. What amazes me is that no matter what he does, it's always labeled bad. And if there's any good, it's either shrugged under the carpet as if it doesn't exist, or twisted in some way, shape, or form just to make a point. Tell me what you guys think. What do you guys think about Trump's win? Are you pro-Trump or anti-Trump? And what do you think about Jimmy Kimmel's take on Donald Trump? Do you think he's correct? And how about The View? What is your reaction to their post-Trump win? And what do you think about Obama's chief strategist and comments he made regarding Trump voters? Please put your comments and reactions down below. I'd like to hear them. But I'd like to thank you guys for watching my first political video. There's going to be a lot more to come. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.